This is the Master Brewers Podcast, brought to you by the Master Brewers Association of the Americas, a volunteer organization dedicated to continually improving the products and processes of our membership since 1887.
Okay, let's go!
Master Brewers brings you interviews with the industry's best and brightest in brewing science, technology, and operations. Okay, welcome back to the Master Brewers Podcast. I'm John Bryce, and here with me is my colleague, friend, and co-host Mark Sammartino. Mark and I are joined right now by our friend Scott Helstad, and he's doing a presentation here at the World Brewing Congress in Denver, Colorado, and he's talking about the use of functional carbohydrate to positively impact the sensory characteristics of beer. So welcome, Scott. Thanks for joining us. And if you don't mind, let's get started by giving us kind of the elevator pitch about your research that you're presenting.
Well, John and Mark, thanks so much for the invitation. And the quick elevator pitch is that the functional carbohydrate that we're talking about is Trehalose. It's a sugar that is found naturally in yeast, but it's not found in beer per se as a residual sugar that's left over. And so based upon some work that Cargill's been doing in food applications, with the sugar Trehalose, how it impacts some of the sensory characteristics, bitterness, alcohol burn, and some things to kind of ameliorate it. We thought it would have a great application in beer. And so this work, this poster, presents this initial study into the use of Trehalose as a way to affect the flavor characteristics of beer. And I might say it's in a positive manner, too.
That's interesting. I'm a big favor of adjunct use in beers just because it delivers a whole different characteristic and flavor profile. And I hate to ask you this, maybe it's proprietary, but how do you derive the Trehalose? How is it?
Well, the Trehalose is derived from a fermentation process, and currently it's manufactured in Japan. We are a distributor of it here in the United States, and we've been doing it for quite a number of years. We've been looking at Trehalose, and we've been talking to brewers about it, but the brewers have kind of come back and they said, it's a part of yeast, it's going to take it, it's going to ferment it, it's going to make alcohol. It's an expensive sugar compared to some of the adjuncts that are available. And, if you're just making alcohol with it, it doesn't make sense. And I agree, there's no sense there. We thought there would be some positive attributes to it in putting it into yeast recovery systems where, in just small quantities, would the yeast absorb it? Would it help with vitality, get X number of pitches out of it, make it healthier and so forth? Again, not too much work has been done on that. We've done a little of that work here in this study. But then, again, it came out of this work of looking at different food systems that all of a sudden you start adding a little bit of Trehalose, and some of these bitter notes that were, problematic would tend to get softened, and that alcohol burn would diminish. And so we thought, well, is there an application in beer? So what actually happened is that one of our product line managers said, you know what, we're going to do this in-house. And they challenged some of the really good craft brewers that we have at Cargill to a challenge that said, here, we'll provide you the Trehalose. You take a beer recipe of your choice and create a beer, and we will have it judged by professional beer judges and just see where it went. So it was a study done. It was all blindly evaluated by the judges. The surprising thing out of it was that all of the Trehalose beers scored better than the control.
That's fascinating. Actually.
And it was rather significant as far as how it went. So we're like, this is what's going on here. It's a pretty fascinating piece because everybody said, there's nothing to it. So we ended up, we're continuing the study. And so a part of it was, can we try to understand that a little bit better? So Cargill has a trained sensory panel up in Minneapolis. And so we challenged them to work with some spiked beer samples just to see if we could see differences along that line and everything else. The conclusion that this team had is that they didn't really see huge differences in flavors, but they did notice it in mouthfeel and some sensory attributes, but whether or not it's significant or not is still something that we have to determine. There's some more work to do there. We need to really work with a properly beer-trained panel to try to ferret out those nuances to see what's going on there. The other part that became, we took this approach to it was, what could we do with, how would the yeast absorb it? How do you get it into the finished beer. If if you put it into prior to fermentation, if everybody says the yeast is going to absorb it, well, that's an expensive carbohydrate to throw in there, and if it doesn't make it through, it's not doing anything. And so we wanted to first clarify if the yeast really took it, because some sources said no,
Right.
yeast didn't absorb, others said yes. So what was the story? So we did do some work there. What really, really surprised the living daylights out of me is that ale yeast seemed to absorb it very quickly. Lager yeast didn't. And I'm looking at the results and I'm thinking, this makes no sense. I mean, it should be absorbed similarly and so forth. So we know there's still a lot more work to go on the fermentation side, but it opens up that door of, okay, what's going on here? This doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, there's several people in the industry you might want to reach out to. Somebody like Laura Burns
Okay.
is very good at yeast genetics and understanding the sugars that are picked up by the different yeast varieties, et cetera. And there is a lot of work that's being done or been done on the sugar profile uptake of different yeasts, and ale does perform a lot differently than lager yeast. So that to me is a fascinating scenario. So what rates were you adding it to the beer?
Well, we're trying to get concentrations down. We see it in about the 0.5 to 1% residual range.
Okay.
So it's a very, very low dose.
Okay.
That we're looking. We do know from past patents actually that are out there and so forth that adding very low levels of sugar into or adjuncts into finished beer products, you can get away with enhancing mouthfeel and sensory attributes without enhancing sweetness. And so we're trying to see what's actually going on there to, is this an alternative for folks that are looking to maybe try to stabilize some things. The other avenue that we're interested in is, does this do anything for shelf life enhancement? It's going to be a little bit longer term study just because you need time to take a look at that. But would this sugar be a very simple addition to a beer that would extend the shelf life? We haven't answered that question yet. That's on the docket. So
I'm going to move you off of this for a minute and bring you back into the Master Brewers Association. In general, you are a long-term member of the Master Brewers, and you support the Master Brewers extensively. You teach at the Malting and Brewing School. You present at these conferences. Your company is always present in the exhibit hall and providing sponsorships and resources for the Master Brewers, and we greatly appreciate that. I'm interested in why. I mean, what drives that, other than the business conscious sense? But there's more to it than that. There's a lot of time commitment.
It's a lot of fun to work with the brewers, and as a vendor into the industry, it's what can we do to help our customer create a much better product, use our ingredients better, try to help them out that way and work through it. If I can take real quick, my uncle kind of got me into a lot of things, and he felt that anything you can do to help the guy down in the trenches, work with your ingredient or your product or anything like that is really good. And that's what I really enjoy, is what can I do to help out the guys that are on the floor, use liquid sweeteners efficiently, what can they do proactively that way? And then it's working with the R&D guys to say, what do you need for a carbohydrate profile? What does the yeast really want in order to produce a good finished product, and how can we be a part of that? The Master Brewers has been a great organization. I've been with them since about 1990 in the Milwaukee district. Okay. And, doing, as I'm sure other speakers have been telling you, the networking that you get in with this group is absolutely phenomenal. The amount of information that's there on a practical level is, certainly unsurpassed. The group is very open. It's very candid. The social events that you get to go to have been a blast. I've brought my wife to them for a number of these. We find very, very close friends throughout the brewing industry.
Doesn't hurt that there's a lot of good beer available as well.
It never hurts to have a good beer.
Yeah.
And as I tell my colleagues at work, someone's got to do it, and I'm very happy to have been able to do that. So
that's right. Great. Well, Scott, thanks a lot for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We appreciate everything you do for MBAA, and we very much look forward to seeing forthcoming research from you. I think that it sounds like there's lots of work left to be done still. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.
Scott's poster and more than 250 other posters and presentations from the World Brewing Congress are now available. Get your copy of the industry's cutting-edge research today at mbaa.com. Join us next week for episode 12 with Amy Johnson of North American Breweries to learn about how your brewery can reduce the amount of solid waste it sends to the landfill.
Just like that one day, like everyone else did.
You can clearly identify a type of container, specific locations, specific labeling, things of that nature. You increase the participation and reduce the confusion around how to participate.
And maybe 3